Hey, try 28, man.
Yeah.
Before we get the first episode of AtlantaCast underway, I'd like to let all our viewers know that we have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/AtlantaCast, where for just $5 a month, you can receive a shout out and personal thank you on each episode of the podcast. $10 will get you access to episodes 2 weeks before they go up on YouTube, meaning that if you're listening when this episode goes up on YouTube, we have already recorded and posted 3 episodes on Patreon. And finally, at the $15 tier, you will receive access to bonus episodes of the AtlantaCast, wherein we will be discussing media related to the Atlanta TV show, primarily focused on the main creative mind behind Atlanta, Donald Glover's other creative endeavors. Until this YouTube channel hits 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, we will be unable to monetize any of our content on YouTube, so we would massively appreciate any viewers generous enough to make this show monetarily viable. Once again, that's patreon.com/AtlantaCast. Thank you all for watching, and let's get on with the show.
I feel like we need like a intro, like a logo or like something to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll come up with some
Repeat
kind
every
of.
Welcome to the Atlanta podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do we want to call this? AtlantaCast?
Yeah, maybe we can come up with some clever indirect reference to the city of Atlanta. So the intent of this is to discuss episodes of Atlanta, and we're going to do this loosely in order, meaning starting with season 1, episode 1. But I think this is a really cool show.
This is one of my favorite shows that I've started recently. Definitely a highlight that I'd say in like the past year. It's probably one of my top 5.
Yeah, and I got to give credit where credit is due, which is to you, Chris, because you turned me on to it. I knew who Donald Glover is or was before I tuned in.
Yeah, I guess so. I kind of have the more rich history personally with Donald Glover between the two of us. But yeah, I've been a fan of his for a few years now, pretty intently. I really like going through different creators, like entire discographies of stuff. And Donald Glover is a man of many talents. He is a singer-songwriter, rapper, director. He's a writer. He's I think I said actor, comedian. Does stand-up comedy. Yeah, he does it all.
Very talented.
Yeah,
obviously. And I think people tuning in are going to know that.
Yeah. But he is the main creative mind behind this show. And we're definitely going to see a lot of things, references to his past work. And if you're familiar with, his music, the shows that he's written, I actually haven't seen 30 Rock, but he wrote for 30 Rock. But especially me personally, I'm more familiar with his music. And if you listen to his songs, there's a lot of themes and a lot of motifs. A few of his albums, actually, the covers make their way into this show. It does as little background details and stuff that you can recognize if you've listened to the music. But yeah, well, I mean, I'll mention that when it comes up in the show. But
how old do you think he is?
I think he's 38. He was 38. born in 1983, I think.
Do you know what his where he was born or what his heritage
he was born,
is?
I think, on a military base. And then he grew up in Atlanta. Yeah, I know his dad, I think, was in the military. That might not be correct. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking up his wiki. Yeah, he was born in Edwards Air Force Base in California. Okay. And then, he was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, evidently, by both of his parents, I think. But
are his parents both from the U.S.?
I don't know. But yeah, evidently, he learned when he was a kid. His parents were foster parents. He is their birth kid, but for a while they would foster different children. So he was exposed to a lot of different walks of life, and they also sent him to. He's a black kid, and they sent him to a white school at some point in his life. I don't know for how long, but he's talked kind of extensively about that in his like comedy specials, and a lot of the ideas that he has to speak about sort of race relations in America are definitely informed by his taking on sort of white culture. He's considered himself like a black nerd. He has oftentimes like talked about how has been made fun of for talking white and all the so that's
Yeah, I
just
think
sort of give you an
that
idea
comes
of who he
out
is,
in
and
this
that
show.
definitely comes up in the show. So we don't have to go in depth about that right now, but yeah, that kind of gives you a general idea of who he is. He's also a pretty cerebral guy. He's often touches on topics of like nihilism and existentialism and sort of like just kind of wondering what your purpose in life is, and that's also motifs that show up in Atlanta pretty frequently. Yeah,
So
he's a pretty interesting guy.
I would just add to like my initial comments, which is that I took an interest in this show largely because you encouraged me to watch it, but it was
Mhm.
very quickly apparent to me that this is a very creative thing that Donald Glover and
Yeah.
whoever else is creating this has done, because there are a lot of like important social issues that are discussed mainly from the perspective of the African American inner city culture thing, but they're not by any means like your expected messages that emerge from these things. And I have opinions about race relations and so forth, but I just found it really surprising, some of the messages that emerge from these shows, not just as it pertains to race relations, but like things that are maybe stereotypically African American or black, where he's clearly questioning, whether these are valid things or
Yeah,
in.
Atlanta is. I think the other thing that's going to become very apparent as we go down the list of episodes is that Atlanta isn't, I think, so much about like answering questions as it is about proposing them. Because I think it very clearly understands how complex of like an issue race relations are, and I don't think it really claims to have the answers. I
Mhm.
think what it tries to do is give the perspective of how it feels like to be in the position that like the characters are in, even if that means getting a
Yeah,
little
I
surreal
think
at
so.
points.
Let's kind of jump into the
Yeah, yeah.
first episode and kind of set it up for our listeners. Hopefully, there's a few out there who are also interested in this TV show.
Yeah, yeah. If you haven't already, watch the first episode before this. Obviously, we both recommend it heavily. We are going to be spoiling what happens in the first episode. We've both seen past. I've finished season 3. It's currently season 3 is finished and out. I've seen all of it. You haven't finished season 3 quite yet, but I'll make reference to like some things that happen. But I'm going to be vague about them because this show has a lot of foreshadowing and a lot of elements that are recursive. So I'll try to point out when I think the show has done something pretty smart or when it's just been clever or unique in some aspect, but I'm not going to give away details. So I'll try to remain spoiler free as far as we get into the show during the series. But yeah, watch episode 1 first.
So the main characters, we got
Right.
Donald Glover, who's one of the main characters. His name's Ern, or which I assume
Ern.
is short for Ernest or Ernie.
Ernest. It is short for Ernest.
Ernest. Uh, we have Alfred, who's his cousin, also AKA Paperboy, the
Mm-hmm.
rapper. We have Darius, who's kind of like the goofy sidekick to Alfred.
I'd
Uh,
call him the spiritual advisor.
yeah, I really like that guy, and I think you'll hear me talking more
Yeah,
about
Darius
Darius.
is fantastic.
um, so the the setting obviously is in the city of Atlanta, and we're pretty quickly immersed into. I guess it's not. I wouldn't describe it as ghetto life, but it's clearly like lower income,
The
um,
Hood.
black, yeah, the hood people, with not a lot of money, and Donald Glover being one of those people. We're very quickly led to believe that he's broke. He dropped out of Princeton for reasons that are not entirely clear, and he has returned to Atlanta recently and he's trying to make
Well, for
way.
3 years actually.
Oh, 3 years?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a line like they're all sitting on the couch and Al goes like, "You still on that 1 year break?" And he's like, "Man, 3 years is a long year break."
Oh, I didn't catch that. So he's been
Yeah.
out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. That is part of the first scene, or first episode. It's not the first scene.
The first scene actually is a it's like a deja vu thing. It returns at the end of the episode,
Yeah,
not in full, but yeah, the first scene opens obviously on this seemingly completely random guy kicking over the over Alfred's window, or
side view mirror.
yeah, side view mirror, my bad. And this provokes Al. He walks out of his car. He demands money, and they get into an altercation, and it ends with Alfred pulling a gun on this guy. And then we cut to an overhead shot, and then we hear gunfire, and it's heavily implied that Alfred shot that guy lethally. And then we cut back to, I believe it's Ern waking up in bed with Van, his the mother of his daughter. I'd say like it also the very like beginning of the show is like I just think it's such a good opening scene, both because like it really just like it grabs you by the balls. It's telling, I think, about the characters and who they are, because obviously Al is quick to he's not one to let himself be pushed around. You know, there's this completely unprovoked destruction of his property effectively, and then Ern is the voice of, so he's sort of the one to try and calm everyone down. He's trying to de-escalate the tension, and he obviously like, you know, understands Al's temperament, you know, as we later, I think we know at this point that they're cousins, so there's obviously some family ties there. And Darius, the whole time, Darius is just like, man, I swear I've been getting deja vu. Where's that dog at? And he like looks over and sees this dog standing on the side of the road, and he's like, yo, yeah, it's the dog. Like, I remember this. And it's like Darius understands that he's in a TV show.
Yeah, I think Darius is immediately represented as like some sort of mystic or something.
Yeah.
And that continues throughout like
Definitely.
the whole series. But yeah, I agree. The character of Ern is we immediately see him as sort of the mediator, and concerned about the hotter temperamental Paperboy, or at this point we don't know him as Paperboy, but Alfred. The scene is you're purposely left not knowing who fired the gun, even though Alfred did have it in his hand. I believe we see him put the gun to the other guy's chest. So you're to assume that Paperboy shot him, but then they quickly cuts to Ern in bed with his girlfriend Vanessa, and so we leave that scene sort of, you're kind of left hanging there, and then you are introduced to Vanessa, which is Ern's girlfriend, and Ern is having this discussion about some weird dream he had about being underwater and feeling like somebody was going to pull him down to the bottom of the water, which is probably, you know, more insight into him feeling anxious about the situation that he's in, or you know, feeling he's underwater, you know, financially and in other ways.
Yeah, dreams and the water are motifs that show up in Atlanta a lot, and I'll say, I mean, yeah, already it's really quick, but there's already, I think this is foreshadowing, and I'll just say, put a pin in the fact that Ern said he had a dream about being pulled underwater.
You think that's coming back?
Well, yeah. Yeah, in short, yeah. I think
so we also see in this same sequence that there's this weird relationship between Ern and Vanessa, that there's a child in the apartment, which turns out that Ern and Vanessa have a daughter together named Lottie, and she's in the next room, but you're not aware of that until after they leave the bedroom. So you can tell there's some sort of odd relationship here because Vanessa sort of rebuffs him. He's trying to initiate some love making in bed, but she asks him to tell her that
she says, do you
loves
love
her.
me, or say
And
say
he
you love me.
laughs, and she doesn't like that. So they basically like get out of bed and they don't really have an argument, but they just
No, they just start planning their day.
Yeah,
pretty
and
much.
That's when you find out that there's their daughter's in the next room, and Vanessa announces that she has a parent-teacher event that night, that Ern needs to take care of the child. And oh, by the way, he also needs to start contributing towards the rent because he's been staying there at the apartment. And apparently he really doesn't belong there, or she hasn't, it's not like they're living together in this apartment. He's just crashing there until he gets a better job or get some money together that he can support himself. So apparently these two are not committed to one another despite having a child together and having just shared a bed, because the beginning of the scene you just assume that that these two are a couple and they're living together, but that you find out that that's not the case. And then the scene ends with kind of a comical line from Ern, he's holding the baby and he's talking to the baby, who obviously doesn't understand him. He's just an infant, but he makes a joke about the less than desirable parenting situation that's happening.
He holds Lottie up to his ear and is like, "What's that?" And then he's like, "What? No, this isn't a bad situation to be raising you in at all. What are you talking about?"
Right. You get little peeks into
Ern's pretty self-aware about his situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like I hear Donald Glover, the comedian, in some of those lines.
Oh, I hear Donald Glover, the director, songwriter. Like I hear him in everything. Like I very frequently, if I ever call him Donald instead of Ern, like it's because I just see him as Donald Glover. It's really hard for me to not. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that he injects into the character of Ern that I think is pretty like ripped straight from like his own experience. Not everything, but
do you
definitely
think this
a healthy
scene
amount.
Is any kind of autobiographical?
I'm not sure. I know that Donald has kids. I don't know if he had kids at the time of making this first season. Yeah, I don't claim to be an expert on that aspect of his life, but I know he has kids now.
Is he married? He's in a committed relationship?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him in that way.
Yeah, but I will say his most recent album I think dealt with like a lot of realizations he's had in his life after becoming a parent, but that's like 2020 era, and this first season was released in 2016, so that's a good deal before that. But yeah, as for elements of Donald's life that I think have made its way into this show, I mean, right off the bat, this was something I wanted to mention in the first scene, is that you can hear someone call out to presumably Paperboy and call him World Star. World Star is a song that Donald wrote under the moniker of Childish Gambino. That's his rapper name. And in his album Because of the Internet, there's a song called World Star. And basically it has to do with basically fame, becoming famous, and being seen as sort of a world star, as this big shot. And so I think that's kind of a immediate link between the character of Al Paperboy and Donald Glover's experience as Childish Gambino, because obviously Paperboy is a rapper and Donald is also pretty experienced in that field. So I think it's pretty impossible to conceive of the fact that some of Donald's experience as Childish Gambino didn't make its way into Paperboy, and I think we'll see a lot of that like going on.
I think I disagree that.
Really?
I mean, Paperboy is not Childish Gambino. I think there
Well,
are other
he's not
characters.
Childish Gambino, but I think like a lot of the experiences that he has had under the Childish Gambino moniker are things that Al also deals with. I'm specifically thinking of authenticity. Al is not somebody, this is something we also learn in this very episode, towards the end of the episode, Ern asks Al, like, he says like, oh, they get his song Paperboy self-titled onto the radio, and Ern is saying like, this is a really good song, and Al goes, man, I hate this song actually. and I think that is especially given the context of like later on in the season, I think it's pretty clear that Al, even in this one scene alone, Paperboy is a song about him being like this rich thug who gets all the girls. And like we see in this one episode, he just lives in kind of a shitty apartment. He just shares this like normal ass apartment with Darius, just like Darius is like making him cookies, and they're like, they open up and Darius is like, yo, is this milk any good? And Al goes like, well, you mean like good for what? And Darius is like, for drinking. And Al's like, oh no, don't use that water, or don't use that milk for drinking or whatever. And it's like, okay, so these guys are poor, he's not some hot shot. But that's how he's presenting himself in his music, and that's what gets him famous, or well, quote unquote. I mean, actually, yeah, that's what gets him well known, basically. That's the image that people know him for now, and I think it's pretty clear right off the bat that he resents that, and it's only going to get more clear. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think there are little snippets of the up and coming rapper, the experience of the up and coming rapper, but it really, to me, I think there are other characters that emerge, and I'll talk about them whenever they show up in the subsequent episodes, who probably are more autobiographical representations of Ern. But let's go to the next couple scenes, which we see Ern at the airport standing.
Yeah, this is also, make note of the fact that he's working as like an airport salesman guy.
He's trying to sell credit cards or something to passersby in the airport who just brush him off. Mm-hmm. And this is where he becomes aware that his cousin has put out a music video, which has become really popular because the coworker of his in the airport says, he actually pulls out his phone and he shows him this Paperboy video, and Ern says, hey, that's my cousin Alfred, and then and
then immediately leaves to go talk to Al.
Yeah, he just stops what he's doing and leaves, which kind of like points to the fact that he's not gainfully employed, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. Also, I think that's kind of a nod to how when you watch Ern, it's like, I feel like he doesn't get super passionate. He doesn't get super passionate all that often. Occasionally he does, but I think especially about being a music manager, I think he's extremely passionate about doing this and making a living off of it. I mean, it's based on his actions, not necessarily. There's no monologue where he says like, this is all I want in life and stuff. You can just tell based on the way he acts, and this is one of those moments where he just drops what he's doing, the current job that he has, to go try and make it because he sees an opportunity. And also, I'll note that his name is Ernest, and Ernest
like
is
the adjective,
a word.
Earnest.
Exactly. Earn.
Well,
what does earnest mean? It's like, or what's like the dictionary definition? It means
question.
It means like with great conviction. It means like with great conviction and sincerity, which are two traits that Ern has in spades, and we'll learn more like as the show goes on.
Well, I can say that just from, I mean, we're only a couple scenes into the show at this point, and we've been led to believe that he's broke and poor. That, I think, him walking away from there could be interpreted as that maybe this is him just like flaking out again, because I mean, at this point we don't know too much of his backstory, but I think just at face value, it seems like an odd thing to do is just walk away from your job when you have a dependent, a child that is in your home. So, but then the very next scene, then he goes to his parents, and his parents like turn him away, telling him that he's just there to ask for money, which may or may not be true, but he really gets snubbed by his parents. He wants to come inside their home, and the dad is standing at the door, and he's like, I know I can't afford it. And then there's a funny exchange about him actually not flushing the toilet in the house, which is just weird comedy inserted into a sort of a depressing scene. The guy's own parents won't even help him at this point in his life. So whatever he's done to his parents, which we don't really know, it's enough that his parents are like, they don't want anything to do with him at this point.
So that also kind of gets into like depicting just how absolutely poor Ern is, which I think is a big aspect. I don't know how poor Donald Glover as a kid was. I don't think he was that poor. I don't think.
If his father was in the military,
I might be wrong. But
at least a stable.
But yeah, like this is especially like this is a show, like I think it's very clearly and immediately about people who are just like, they will do anything and everything just to get by, because like just surviving is kind of a struggle for them. Like he just meal to meal, Donald like doesn't quite have like the money or the stability for that. And it could be, I think it's simultaneously like a flaw of his that he, at such a time of need where, his girlfriend is asking him to pay rent and he has a child to care after, that he seemingly just drops this, we would assume, stable job at the airport. Well, actually, it doesn't seem like he's that successful, because like, we initially are introduced to him doing that, and he like hands a flyer to a guy and the guy's just like, fuck off, and keeps walking. So it doesn't seem like he's getting that much success there. So that could be part of it. But then also I think it's definitely sort of just the level of passion that he has for being like a music producer. Mm-hmm. He really believes in this idea, and I think that's and again, that's I think his greatest weakness and flaw.
So he goes directly to visit Paperboy and Darius at their apartment, and upon knocking on the door and having the door open, there's a gun pointed at him right away, which tells you that this is a dangerous neighborhood, and Paperboy is probably, I think,
that further kind of illustrating that everybody in this town is just like they've grown to become very hostile of people they don't know, and they need to protect themselves by any means necessary, because everybody's very vulnerable and everybody's just doing whatever they can to get by.
And Paperboy immediately knows why he's there. He wants a part of his fame, or what is emerging as his popularity. And Ern says, he wants to manage him, and but Paperboy sort of spurns him right away, and it's basically telling him to get lost. And not only that, but he questions his manhood. There's a line he drops about Ern's, like diminutive stature, or basically he's basically questioning his manhood, which Ern doesn't seem to react to. So I think this is kind of pointing out like his physical weakness, or his at least compared to Paperboy, his sort of passive nature.
It's definitely out of place for the location and the culture that he's kind of surrounded by, and that kind of comes to a head on multiple occasions. Two things about this scene that I wanted to mention. One is that with like the gun being pointed at his head right as he's about to walk in, we cut to immediately inside, and we just see Darius holding a plate of cookies and a knife, like ready to attack whoever comes around the corner. And as soon as he sees like, oh no, it's all clear, like I'll let him in, he's safe, he just like, pulls down his mask, I think, and just like offers Ern a cookie. Which I think is a really fun way to kind of like I think it's the first time we've seen Darius since like that opening scene, which was like a flash forward, and now we're kind of building our way up to that shooting scene. And so as like a true, I guess, introduction to Darius, it's like I like how it kind of shows that he's also very accustomed to I guess hood life, where you have to be very careful, and I mean, like, literally death could be around any corner. But he's also, as soon as he feels like he can trust somebody, he's extremely nice and extremely like welcoming. He's not he has no intention. He has no ill intentions. No,
Yeah,
not a mean
he's
bone in his
not
body.
hostile in any way, but he's also not like he's
Yeah.
not meant he's not made out to look weak physically or scared or anything. Or he's not even interested in, you know, what could be in like a situation that could be mediated, like earn
He's
tries
just here
to,
for a good time.
yeah. I mean, and that's obviously uh, brought out in this scene where, because they adjourn to the couch on the hill and start
Yeah.
smoking weed,
Yeah.
while Ern continues to sort of lobby.
Yeah, and actually,
Paperboy.
that's the second thing that I was going to mention about this scene is that this comes right after, I think, the scene with Ern and his parents, and then, you know, again, the first thing that Ern is or that Al confronts Ern with as soon as he's at his house is, "You want money, don't you?" So like,
Yeah.
both members of his family, or you know, both his parents and now his cousin, immediately know that they know Ern is broke. He's looking for cash, and if he shows up at your doorstep, it means that he is trying to get money out of you. So like, real quick, it's like I like how his interactions with his family members simultaneously serves to like flesh out his relationships with his family members, but it also like kind of paints a picture of like what his past was like. You know, I think at this it's not until like the couch scene of them smoking outside where I think we learn explicitly that he dropped out of Princeton. But within this whole scene, you can, if you're paying attention, you can pretty clearly get an idea of what kind of person Ern is. He, you know, was probably of a higher level of education than most people around him, and he dropped out presumably for financial reasons, and now he's really struggling to make by. Also, you know, and then, you know, sometime during these like 3 years, he met up Van, or possibly knew her beforehand. They had a kid, and now he's struggling to make ends meet.
So
So
do you think the reason he dropped out was because of money? Because I'm not sure if that was
possibly,
entirely clear to me. Like, I think there's something he's very defensive about, because he would
yeah.
not share very much information when Paperboy pressed him on that question, like, why did you drop out?
Yeah, I will say it does kind of seem like he dropped out of his own volition, like he had a choice in the matter.
I think
That's
there's
just the
something's going to
impression I
come
get
back.
based on the way that Al was talking about him. But
I
yeah,
think there's going to be a reveal later, maybe, to explain this in more detail, because it was mentioned twice in the first episode, and like, we really don't know why he dropped out. But
very
yeah,
possible.
clearly, if he got into Princeton, he must be a pretty smart guy.
Mhm.
So like, the there's some really good comedy in this
Oh yeah, and then
scene
Darius
too.
talks about rat phones.
So,
Yeah,
somehow
just like, yeah,
somehow
just like further
Darius speculates
establishing him
about
as
using a rat as a cell phone and how
yeah, yeah,
fantastic that would be. And he
yeah.
also
And he talks.
drops
He says,
some he drops
he
some
says like,
information about his balls getting smashed, which is
yeah, yeah.
hilarious.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, this isn't really a spoiler, but he does mention that again in like
Yeah,
season 3, like
I did not
way
catch that
later.
the first time. Like, in
Yeah, I was
this,
gonna say
when I
I didn't
watched it a
catch that the
second
first
time.
time, but yeah, just like it's just really funny because it sounds exactly like the way that somebody who just like had their balls crushed when they were a kid would talk about it. He's just like, man, now I got to talk about when I got my balls crushed. Jeez, like, and then like later in, yeah, and then later in season 3, again, this isn't really a spoiler. He just like mentions it in
Yeah,
passing
it's just in
conversation.
passing.
But he's just like, yeah, I can't have kids. My balls got crushed when I was a kid in Nigeria, and that's just kind of, he just like mentions that offhand. Yeah, really funny, and
Yeah, we
it's
love Darius.
yeah,
His
it's one of
comedy.
those moments that like made me, because like I just rewatched season 1, episode 1 today, And I rewatch shows only occasionally. I don't really sometimes I don't really consider it a rewatch if it's like a show I watched as a kid that I'm now coming back to as an adult. I feel like there's like a really new, fresh perspective in a situation like that. But with this show, obviously, I want to say I watched all 3 seasons, in the span of a couple months, and then almost as soon as I finished season 3, I went back to watch episode 1 because we decided to make this podcast, and I was a little worried that I'd be bored watching the episodes, but I've found so far that there's a lot to pay attention to. There's a lot of stuff that I missed the first time. There's a lot of foreshadowing and a lot of the characters just being like really clearly written with like their future selves in mind. Like it's very obvious that they had a handle on what kind of person Darius and Al and Ern are from the very get-go. And you can see like the way that their characters bounce off of each other just makes perfect sense given like the context that you learn about them later on. So it's really interesting, and I'm really excited to continue watching episodes following this one and see if that kind of holds true.
So before they leave this scene, we find out that Ern actually knows somebody who's a music promoter or a DJ, right, or somebody who works at a radio station or something. So despite the fact that Paperboy is like, buzz off, I'm not interested in you being my manager, he pursues this, I wouldn't call him a friend, but somebody who he knows, white guy in a parking lot. He has an exchange with this guy who apparently has an inn at this radio station or someplace called the Diamond House, he mentions. Ern tries to convince him to get Paperboy's music played on the radio. The guy asks him for a bribe of $500.
Yeah.
And during that conversation, the guy is like dropping the N-word, which initially kind of like shocks Ern, or maybe not shock is the right word, but Ern kind of
he's definitely
turns his
caught
head.
Off guard.
He's like, "What the hell?" But he doesn't really challenge him on it, and the guy says he says it a second time, and there's actually no response. So this is kind of another instance already where we kind of see Ern's passive nature, like this is like a toxic word that most of the characters would react to. But
I would say this isn't so much of actually I'd say it's partly Ern's passive nature. I think it's also definitely an illustration of like who holds the power in this situation, because Ern is trying to get something from this guy. I don't even remember his name. I'll just call him White Guy.
Yeah,
but he's trying to get something
Dave,
from this
maybe?
white guy.
Paperboy called him Dave at one point, but I don't think that's his name.
Right. Well, he's trying to get something from him, which is he's trying to get his cousin's CD played on the radio. So he's obviously not going to be like super confrontational. He's not going to call him out on any behavior that he finds objectionable, because this guy's already asking him for $500. With if Ern were to be like, hey, by the way, I don't appreciate you saying the N-word, then he'd probably be like, oh, okay, my bad. And then he'd just kind of like walk off and maybe feel a little sour about the situation. I don't think Ern wants to risk that happening. And it's kind of shown that he also doesn't really have much respect for this guy anyway. Definitely partly because he's a white guy who's willing to just drop the N-word. Because later on he talks to the janitor, I suppose, of the producers building, and he manages to get his way into the building, even though I guess it's locked, and he takes some money from a shoebox and attaches it to the CD and slides it under the door of of KP, I think, was his name. He's like the head honcho, I assume, of the radio station. And he does it like right in front of his white guy friend. His white guy friend is like on the radio, I assume, saying like, all right, next up we're going to be playing whatever song by this artist. And he like looks over, and Donald's just there, or Ern is just there, and he's like, yo, can I slide this under the door? And he's like, oh, hey, you can like give that to me. And Ern's like, I'm just going to slide it under the door. He just like kind of ignores his friend.
I think this scene was kind of complex. and I don't know if it was purposely done this way or not, but
Yeah, do
I
you
think
think that he stole that money that was in the shoebox?
yeah,
Or
that
do you
was one
think
of
that
my
was some
questions: is where did
savings
that
that he
money come
had?
from? Did he just have it stashed somewhere?
Presumably it is $500 since that
Yeah,
was the amount that that his friend asked for. So I assume that's what KP, I think that
yeah,
was his name.
and
The head honcho guy who's like, I guess, decides what's going to go on the radio.
I mean,
Um
it was also wasn't clear to me that I mean, these guys obviously knew each other, and they
mhm.
were kind of cordial, like they had a history. The guy was friendly. They seemed friendly to one another,
Yeah,
but then the
definitely.
the guy was
Yeah, up
clearly
until he
like
said the N-word, like
bribing
Ern
him.
was laughing at the story that he was telling him.
Yeah, yeah. Even that like seemed like maybe Ern was just used to this guy talking that way, but then again, he kind of
Well, I don't think he was
questioned
used to
him.
him saying the N-word. I just think that they had a rapport. So I don't know if that's the
They're
right way to
just
say that.
like associates or acquaintances, but not really friends.
Yeah.
And clearly they were kind of I think what I took away from it was kind of what you said. I mean, they're kind of using each other, right? He's probably going to
Yeah.
skim some of that $500 money for himself and then pass it on. Like he wanted to get his hands on some of that money, I think. And Ern obviously wants, his interest is promoting Paperboy and getting his music played. But
Hmm.
but yeah, it's a little bit ambiguous, and it I think it maybe was purposely done that way to sort of leave you sort of questioning Ern's character. Why didn't he challenge this guy's, you know, use of you know, a, a toxic term? And but on the other hand, you also see that he's kind of focused on what his goal is in that situation, which is to promote the music and get into that studio so that he can deliver the music disc. So he kind of like overlooks the fact that this guy is being an ass.
Yeah, and I think I'll also say that it's really clear that his white guy friend finds it okay to talk like this because he is familiar with the rap scene. He's definitely
Right.
he's got a lot of connections in there. Although he also clearly, just based on the way he dresses, you can tell that he's got more money than the people around him.
Mm.
Um, and he's not needing to pull guns to the heads of people who randomly knock on his door. He's in a much healthier position than a lot of people surrounding him, and I think that's kind of the separation. Like, just because he's surrounded by people who throw around the N-word doesn't mean that like he's necessarily like gifted the N-word pass as well. And I think I think it might be sort of like a declaration on the part of Atlanta to like have this be in the first episode to like sort of hint to any white viewers watching, like, hey, just because you watch this show doesn't make you like an expert on race relations, you know.
Yeah,
um
good point.
uh but
So we're going to come back to this white guy character in a moment, but
right.
the next scene I found really intriguing. So Ern is sitting on a bus with his daughter sleeping in his lap, uh,
Yeah, this is
and
one of
and
the
he
first.
encounters this sort of well dressed man with a bow tie, and he has this sort of spiritual conversation, or the guy like out of nowhere just starts offering him like sort of life lesson information.
Mhm.
And Ern actually takes his headphones off, and he has an exchange with the guy, which kind of gives you a little bit of, well, it gives you insight into like some of his deepest thoughts apparently, because Ern just like shares with this stranger that he has questions about his own fate and whether he's destined to be a loser. He talks about maybe some people uh, in life are just meant to make it easier for the winners. So
Yeah, yeah, that
it's kind of
line
a
bites.
weirdly honest exchange he has with this complete stranger.
Yeah, and I mean, this as the other I was gonna say about the airport scene. We kind of get that first uh we get like a first instance of the people in this world just acting really weird. The show just feeling like it kind of exists in this separate dimension. What I would describe, I think that in I'm referring to the old woman at the airport, like
Oh yeah,
dry humping the guy who she was like selling something to or
that
whatever,
was
just like in the
pretty funny.
middle of public and nobody does anything. I guess she's doing this to like taunt Ern and the guy he was standing next to at the time.
But she's
And now we've
revealing
got
that she's taking advantage of this guy who's
yeah,
signing up for the credit card.
yeah, and like now we're seeing this like random yeah, I get like he seems like a ghost. He just like walks up or I mean walks over and sits right next to Ern on the bus and they have this conversation about I think he says like, you know, where are you going in life or like how do you want to progress in your life, and Ern is just kind of like, man, it's hard. You know,
Yeah.
what if some people are just meant to be winners and some people are just meant to be losers? It's sort of like existential talk. This is the kind of thing that makes me feel like some of Childish Gambino is like coming into this character.
Agreed.
Um,
Yeah.
but then he offers this. I mean, I'm gonna assume he's a ghost, but also, I mean, it's intentionally surreal and
Yeah.
vague. But he offers Ern this Nutella sandwich. He makes him a Nutella sandwich like on the spot, and he says he doesn't
Take a
say
bite.
eat this. He doesn't say eat this sandwich. He doesn't say like here eat, like have this or whatever. He says take a bite of this sandwich.
Yeah.
He doesn't say like eat it. He just says take a bite of this sandwich.
It's like he's offering
Um,
communion.
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of that kind of the feel I got out of it. It's like there was something mystical about this Nutella sandwich that was going to
Possibly. I
do
mean,
something to change his life.
the only thing I could think of is that it's like a Adam and Eve like apple of
Yeah, that's
like
what,
that. But like I don't know how that even works, you know.
yeah. Like
I don't see how that maps onto this
I
situation
thought about
almost
the
at
very
all.
same metaphor, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense
And I mean
because
that kind
bad
of yeah,
things
kind of
happened after Adam bit the apple, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
was a
So it's
fall
like I
from
don't know.
grace. So this is that
Yeah, and
doesn't
again,
make
I don't know
sense
if
to me.
this is I don't know if this is even if that's even what they were going for. If they were even assuming that people would draw that. I don't know. I mean, it's not that.
Yeah, maybe the
That's the only
listeners
thing that
can
yeah,
weigh in on this one and
that's the
tell
only
us
thing
what
that
the
like
hell
came
that
to
means.
mind as like a specific like, you know, main character takes a bite of some kind of food and it's thematically significant in some way. That's the only thing I could think of.
I don't think
But like
Nutella represents anything in particular that I'm
yeah,
aware of.
I have no fucking clue.
I also wrote
Um
down this. I wrote down this quote before he offers him the Nutella sandwich, or before he insists that he bite the sandwich.
yeah.
He says, and I quote, "Actual victory belongs to things that simply do not see failure. Let the path push you like a broken branch in a river's current." So tell me what the hell that means.
Well,
It's a
see,
little
the thing is, I was gonna
curious.
say when I heard that, it sounds like the first half of that sentence is saying like, don't like be determined,
Don't
you know,
accept failure.
which kind of plays into what I talked about how Ernest's name is Ernest, which means like sincere
Yep.
determination or something like basically. And I think Ern is kind of about embodying those traits, and he's going into an industry of music production, which is very corrupt in a lot of ways and very difficult to get by in a lot of ways. And we're going to see that play out. And you need a lot of conviction to make your way through that world. And
But then the
I could
second half of
imagine,
that,
yeah. But then the second half of it
what
is
the hell?
like
It's like
let the
contradictory.
river carry you like a broken branch, as if to say the river is life and you are just kind of like a broken
You're
branch,
just
as in like
floating along.
yeah, I guess like which is to say, I guess don't try to don't try to enact change in your life. Just kind of like let life carry you along, which seems contradictory to the first half.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm interpreting that incorrectly or if it's
Yeah,
if it's
somebody explain
intentionally
that to us.
contradictory. But yeah, I mean, either way, the man then right afterwards, a ambulance flies by the bus, and I don't know if there's anything specific about like the cinematography, but just the way that the camera kind of pans along with Ern's like head move is very like uh, it it just really feels like it resets the tempo of the scene, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
And then yeah, when we turn back, the man is gone, and we see him getting off the bus along with the dog that is later identified by Darius.
Yeah,
Uh,
good point. Like
and the
I
other
didn't
thing,
catch that the first time around that dog was present with the same
yeah,
guy. So there
yep,
is definitely something
yeah,
ghostly about these two, the
and
dog and the guy.
yeah. So the other thing is that the Nutella jar, and I think the sandwich, but at the very least the Nutella jar, after he leaves, after he gets up off the seat, you can still see the Nutella jar on the
Yeah, he left it.
seat. So I would assume that that means he was real and like a physical entity.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
doesn't he show up in a TV ad or something later?
I don't remember.
I think we'll come back to that too because I think he does show up on a commercial, like just you
Yeah.
just see it sort of in passing in somebody's
Mm.
apartment. So anyway, then let's go on to finish this off and say
Oh
uh,
yeah. Well, wait. I'll just say that yeah, that's another example of those are like the two big examples of this show just getting like really surreal and intentionally, I would say, I don't know, maybe intentionally confusing. But I'll say like kind of right now that I think the MO of the show in this department is sort of about being expressive and trying to get across what the characters are feeling and not literally what's happening. I don't think that what's literally happening. I don't think that questions about was the man on the bus real? Was the Nutella sandwich like real? I don't think any of that is as important as the conversation that he has with Ern and
yeah, I
what it
think it's
kind of
Ern's
reveals.
dialogue that's important here.
Yeah, because Ern, finishes off this conversation with the guy. He's just like the guy's like, take a bite of the sandwich, and Ern's like,
No
nah, I'm
thanks.
good. He's just like, yeah, I'm good. And he says like, let the water like carry you like a broken branch. Ern says like, you know what? Ern says like, yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not
going to
gonna
go
go
that
out like
way.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really illustrating something. It's more illustrating about Ern and sort of like the questions that he has going on in his head. There's a lot going on in Ern's head that like very explicitly makes its way into the show, and I think is kind of meant to be a illustration of how the like sort of how the world feels, maybe to someone in his position.
Well, it's somebody who's down on his luck, who's like broke. I mean, it's not
Yeah, and who
surprising that
feels
those
like the
thoughts come
world.
out of his head. Or
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not surprising that he would be thinking that, but like the idea that he would share that with a stranger is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And
I
and
think
yeah, you
the
wonder as a viewer is that ghost like character? They just put him in there to allow Ern to voice this concern
Yeah,
and
I
to
mean,
really
and I wouldn't say, and I wouldn't say it's like, oh, they just put it in to like facilitate Ern like having some sort of character development. I think that that is like the ultimate. Well, I do think that's kind of like the ultimate goal of it. But ghosts are a motif of Atlanta, as well as
yes, that's correct.
like I was saying, like dreams and water, and these are all kind of reoccurring things. And I'd say that it's definitely not like haphazardly thrown in.
No, it's really nicely uh like woven into the first episode. I think going taking a step back, the first scene gives you sort of a carrot to or it dangles this scene out in front of you like something happened and you're not really clear on what it is, so it hooks you right away. But
Hmm.
then there's some really nice character development that's that's uh that's brought out, and there's a little bit of comedy, and then there's a little bit of you know angst that comes out in this scene with Ern on the bus. So I think finally when we leave that scene and the ghost like guy walks off the side of the road with the dog, we then cut to finding out that Ern's bribe has worked and that Alfred's music is actually on the radio. Paperboy is on the radio, and Ern gets a phone call before he gets off the bus, even that Ern wants to come talk to him, and Ern is now happy that he thinks that the management proposal has worked. That Paperboy now knows that he did something to help him out, and so he's going to go hook up with Paperboy and Darius, and this takes us right back to the first scene, the shooting scene, and
Right.
the reason the episode is called The Big Bang.
The Big Bang,
which is
yep.
the reference to the shooting.
Yep, as well as the a reference to like the beginning of this universe.
Yes.
I think it's
good metaphor or
yeah.
nice wordplay or whatever you call that.
Because and I also
launches the whole series. Just
yeah,
like
and I'll also say, like, again, I was just kind of talking about this, but like the idea of like Atlanta as like a surreal alternate reality of real life, I think comes up a lot of the time, just in the way that people will like random old ladies will like be dry humping guys that that she's like doing business with, and
I don't know if I'd call it an alternate reality. I mean, I think
I feel like it gets pretty alternate reality. There's like it's a show where there's a lot of stuff that you just kind of have to accept that you are not going to have the answers to, and like I appreciate that. I like that about the show, because I feel like in a way, by being surreal in that sense, it kind of communicates like a feeling about the characters. Like something that I've heard people talk about in regards to this show is that like being like specifically like a poor black person living in Atlanta can be, especially from the perspective of like wealthier white people who are not living in the same area, can seem like totally surreal to be surrounded by, the guy who Al pulls a gun on. He doesn't react at all to like having a gun be pulled on him. He's like, doesn't even flinch, he pulls up his shirt and shows that he has a gun of his own, and obviously like Ern, when Al like opens the door and pulls the gun on Ern doesn't react either. He's just like, your peephole like doesn't work or something like that. Or he just like has this like natural dialogue. Like people in this city are like very used to just like violence and death and like needing to do anything you can to make by. And that's like, I'm sure that's like reality for a lot of people. And when you're viewing it through the perspective of like a TV show, it can seem like it's being over dramatized for the purpose of like, the viewer like having something super dramatic and exciting to watch. But like for a lot of people, it is reality, and it can be difficult to sort of wrap your head around the fact that some people actually live like that.
So let's try to dissect this final scene, because there's some things that the viewer, some important nuggets of information that
the final scene is in like the shooting again, or
so Ern meets up with
immediately
Boy
before
and
that.
Darius in the car. They're getting high in the car. Ern gets in the car, and this time he actually partakes in smoking some of the weed. Paperboy shouts an insult at a woman passing by, and then we see like the rear side view mirror get kicked off his car. We see it a little more clearly this time.
Yeah, the only thing and the only thing that I'll say now is that, now that I'm thinking about it, the only justification I can think of as to why that guy might have kicked down his side view mirror is that the girl that Al was like hitting on, catcalling, that she was that guy's girlfriend, and so he got mad and like kicked over. That must have been what happened.
That's the only thing that like makes sense. And you obviously didn't see that in the first scene.
Exactly.
But then Ern immediately flies off the handle, and he wants to confront this guy. he reaches for the glove box where there's a gun, and Ern actually says no, don't. He makes some
Right.
comment like, don't do anything about the money. I don't know why he calls it the money, but there's clearly a gun in the glove box. Ern
Mhm.
discourages him from pulling the gun out. Paperboy exits the car in pursuit of the perpetrator, and then you see this is where I want to sort of drill down is Ern looks at the gun in the glove box, and then the scene switches to the three of them walking in. Well, Paperboy's out in front, but Darius and
Yep.
Ern are now out of the car, and they're walking very
They're
quickly to catch
following
up with
him.
Paperboy.
He
But
picks
what?
up the gun, doesn't he?
Well, that's the question.
Ern
Is like
does, right?
you
Because he
learned in
has
the
the gun in
first
the
scene.
first scene at
In
the
the
very
first scene,
beginning.
Ern has the gun, but now I'm wondering because I watched it a second time too, like you, and when I saw that scene again, I was like, wait a minute, did Ern take? Is there more than one gun? Did Ern take the gun out of the glove box? I mean, you don't really know that because he did sort of a double take when he looked at the gun in the glove box, but
Mhm.
then you don't really know. The viewer's not privy to that information. Like you just see now Darius and Ern are following Paperboy, but I mean, it just
I'm
was
inclined to,
something I picked up on the second time around. Like
yeah, I'm
maybe
inclined to
Ern actually
believe.
fired the shot.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's very possible. I'm inclined to believe that like this is the exact same scene that we saw at the very beginning of the episode. It's not like the same scene but slightly different. I think we are just getting more context into it. Um,
So you wonder if
and
they're
I
going to
think
come back and give us even more detail at some point
maybe,
because
yeah.
the episode ends with like a news report that Paperboy and Ern are in custody
Right.
after a shooting, and there's an injured suspect still at large. And you
Mhm.
you you find out about this through the eyes of Vanessa, who's in her
Yep.
apartment, sort of shaking her head, calling these guys idiots for getting involved in the shooting.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we're left. That's where the episode ends, um, with Paperboy and Ern in custody, and we'll find out in episode 2 what becomes of them, and what more character development we have on Paperboy's character. We start to get it.
Yeah.
We start to get it more into his head as far as what he's like, as well as Darius, and there's some other characters that start to emerge too. We learn more about Vanessa in the upcoming episodes as well. So we're like an hour and 3 minutes into this, if my timeline is right. So it's a pretty long
Yeah.
podcast. I hope
I
maybe
feel
we
like
can
that's
edit it down a little
that's
bit.
normal.
But,
I don't know. I feel like that's a normal length.
yeah, yeah. I hope other people are watching this. I really do like. I like this series a lot. I think the Donald Glover and I'm at a loss to recount the director's name. It's a Japanese
Oh,
name.
Hiro Murai?
Murai. Yeah, I don't know too much about that guy, but
Neither
he
do I.
deserves some credit here as well.
I do know that Hiro and Donald, um I know that they have worked on stuff in the past. He was the director for a lot of the music videos that Donald did
Ah,
as Childish Gambino.
music
And I
videos.
think he was also in the production crew of just some other stuff that they had worked on together. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know as much about Hiro as I do about Donald, but he's the director. I think in the majority of episodes, Donald occasionally takes directorial reins of individual episodes, but it definitely seems like the show is a majority creatively Donald Glover's, but definitely not like not to diminish the role that any of the other writers or directors of the show contributed to it. Because I actually have heard in some interviews that he's given on talk shows and stuff that a lot of the character conflicts and the directions that their arcs take are very informed by everybody who was on the crew, the actors as well. So,
But
but
yeah,
but
if you happen to get to the end of this podcast and you're still listening, I'm just gonna again like give my positive thumbs up, like creatively and
yeah. I
just
mean,
how
beyond
well
everything
made
that
this this
I was
series
gonna say,
is.
yeah, beyond everything that like there is to kind of talk about with the show, it's just the craftsmanship is just excellent. The
I
like
agree.
obviously, I think the directing, whether it's Hiro or Donald, or I don't know if anybody else does the job, it's consistently like really really engaging. The show has also received a lot of praise for its like color choice. There it gets there's a lot more iconic examples as we go on, but I mean yeah, even in this first episode, I think we see glimpses of that. I really love the way that shots are framed, and the if you just like watch the like where the cameramen choose to place the subjects, our main characters, in the frame is always really really interesting. A lot of the time I feel like a lot of the time they're given a lot of headroom. The main characters, whoever is the subject of the scene, I feel like a lot of the time their torso or head will kind of be pushed down to the bottom of the frame, and you'll just see like just a lot of empty space above them, as to kind of bring this idea of like I think it's to kind of illustrate the idea of everybody feeling small and feeling like there's a lot more like room to grow, and a lot more stuff that's just kind of out of their control. Like they it's very rare for somebody to like take up the entire frame, or even in just like a normal like eye level shot. I feel like I think of the scene with Ern and his parents when he like goes up to their house, and there are like steps that go up to the front door of the apartment that they're staying at. And so you'll get like this kind of reverse shot, like a standard shot reverse shot between like Ern and his dad and his mom who are talking, except his dad and his mom are like 3 feet higher up than he is. So all of the shots that are looking at them are at an upward angle, and all the ones that are looking at Ern are at a downward angle, which not only just kind of gives it a little more visual flair, but it also illustrates how like Ern is down on his luck and he's looking to them for support. You know, he's kind of in a financial crisis at the moment, and they're in a position they're clearly also poor, but you know, they're stably poor, it seems like.
Yeah. Well,
so like there's just a lot of really interesting visual storytelling going on there, and it's just really really engaging. The music choice I think is also fantastic. Unfortunately I've especially like the songs they choose for the credits. I wish I had written down what it was for this one, but I just know that like they choose a different one I think every time, and I've gotten multiple new songs to add to my playlists on Spotify.
Well, I would just finish by saying it gets better. I think the first episode, while compelling and interesting, I think the social commentary increases as it goes along. It's not linear. There's a lot of unique episodes that are interspersed in there. Some really good comedy that's in there as well.
Yeah. This is also a really funny show. Like there's a lot of social commentary and stuff that I think a lot of people like. There's a lot of room for like intense debate about and stuff like that. But it's also just like a really enjoyable show to watch, and it's funny, and a lot of the times it's like
Darius.
Yeah, Darius is so awesome. Like he single-handedly makes the show like bumps it up at least a couple points on the scale.
I do feel bad that he got his balls crushed.
Yeah. Too bad. He's not gonna. No more baby Dariuses.
I guess not. Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna be it for season 1, episode 1. We'll see how this goes, and I'm counting on you to put this up on YouTube in a timely manner. And
well, I think what we should do is we should record a few of these ahead of time, because I think with like especially if we're covering this show episode by episode, we should have a regular release date, regular release schedule. Weekly makes the most sense to me.
Gives us I think a decent amount of time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to make that process easier, I mean, obviously, we'd appreciate it if you would share this around. This is definitely a sort of a financial endeavor. We're going to see if we can make this podcast series like worth our time monetarily. Obviously, it's a lot of fun to just talk about the show anyway, but we got bills to pay.
Yes. All right. Yeah, that's it. Definitely I don't know, do we want to ask for subscribers already? I guess
Yes.
subscribe,
hit the
share,
bell so that you get
hit the
notified
bell.
of the next episode and the episode after that and every episode moving forward.
Yes.
We should make a Patreon for this show and promote that every chance we get, because until we hit 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, we can't even monetize these videos. So if you're here before then, we'd definitely appreciate a little extra money. $1 is worth I don't know, 500 views or something in terms of like ad rates. So we'd appreciate it. So share it around. Obviously, we'd love to hear anything you guys have to say. I mean, I really hope that this ends up being a like community discussion. I don't want our voices to be the only ones that are in this conversation. And I think we have plans to get other people to be guests on this podcast. So
yeah, and I think besides just sharing the comedy and the conversational stuff, there's actually some stuff to learn about yourself here too, and the characters in this show are sort of opportunities for you to talk about things that you might not otherwise talk about with your friends.
All right. Well, yeah. Anyway, enough of the outro talk. We'll end this off. So yeah, thanks for watching
or listening.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
Are
Hopefully,
they going to be watching anything?
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna put some waveforms up there. It'll be pretty cool. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you'll come around next time. Let us know what you think, and
we're out.
We'll see you next time.
Come on. Hey, mucking. That's massage and fucking. See, the concept is a massage. I got the concept.